wow, this is no joke. Like, I could potentially spend 15 to 16 years in a Brazilian prison if you survive those years, right? And then he looks at us and goes, but don't you worry, I'll get you the minimum. Awesome. When are we going to be out? Like next year? It's like, no, you're going to get at least 4 years. That was it was better than 25, right? Way better than 25, but it was still 4 years. Go back to your cells right now and just don't deviate from that thought. You're not getting out of here in less than 4 years. You can't escape, because there's no way in this jail to pay somebody off to escape unless some really crazy stuff happens, which did happen a couple times while we were there, which was wild. But yeah, 4 years. So we literally went back, and this is when we were all four in a cell at that time, because we were separated from everybody. It was the first 30 days confinement that we were in. When you move into this new prison system, you go into confinement, and we all had to go back to this cell in like 4 years. Like, it's a real realization when it's like you're not getting out, you know you're not getting out, and you literally have to go, wow, for 4 years I got to be here. All right, first thing, they said, find a job, work. You work, you get time off. Every 3 days worked, 1 day off.
How long did it take to come to terms with what had sort of happened? Because I guess she was going through that stage, not really knowing how long it was going to be, I suppose. When do you think it came to terms and it dropped, the penny dropped, and how did you feel?
It was, we had to go to multiple court dates, right? So, and mind you, these are courts where we don't speak Portuguese. It's not translated. We're listening to a judge and lawyers settle our case or defend us and go, not knowing anything that's going on. Like, there was nobody explaining to us, the translator wasn't paying attention to us. She was doing her thing and like, oh yeah. So, lawyer, and this judge, he was the judge that wanted 25. And we had to go through, it was like 2 or 3 sessions in that, and it's not like a courtroom. They sit you, it's a normal room. The judge is sitting at a table, and there's like a conference table, and you're sitting here like this. Judge is raised up higher than everybody, and prosecution's over there, higher than you, and it's this. You're going away. In Portuguese. So, I mean, if someone's screaming at you in another language, looking you in the eye like this, you're going, what's he saying? Shh, not now. He wants to give you 25 years. No. Right? So, boom, we had to go see this guy 2 or 3 times. Then, like, on the 5th or 6th, when it came down to our sentencing, it was like the 5th or 6th court appearance that we had to go to. Mind you, this is a all-day ordeal. They take you out in the morning, transfer you from police station to police station, put you in the courthouse jail, leave you there for 8 or 9 hours, and then the judge may see you at 8 o'clock at night. It's the weirdest court system ever. So they transfer us, boom, bring us. It's our sentencing date. We're sitting there. We are pissing ourselves, thinking, oh my God, this guy hates us. He wants to set an example of 4 young Americans thinking they can come to his country and traffic drugs, right? And give Brazil a bad name. People don't love our country because of people like you, right? So we're going, so we're in the jail we're probably there for 6-7 hours. Finally, it's our turn to go up. Elevator, walk you out, and then we go into this room. We all walk in, sit down. Paulo's there, Joanna's there, We're just like, it's over. It's done. Heads down, deflated. Life is the worst you've ever seen. And then all of a sudden, door opens. Justice Chambers door opens. We look up, and and I can say it now, this insanely beautiful woman, 23. So depends on your definition of a woman, right? I mean, she's still a woman, but it was a young female, 23, 24, 25, looking like she just got out of college, to become an attorney. And she walks out, and we look up, and we're like, this is a couple months not seeing a really pretty girl. We're like, yes, awesome. As she's walking towards a desk, she sits in the judge's chair. Her head's down and going like, what's going on? Paolo looks over, like, say you're me, and he's looking at the judge's chamber, looks over and he goes, that was a little bit of a, did I see that correctly, right? Okay, process starts, boom, they start translating for us, this and that, okay, blah, blah, blah. So here, due to your crimes, the formação de quadrilha, which is the formation of 4 people or more, considered a gang, and the trafficking, the international trafficking of drugs. So they put us on those 2 crimes, what they got us for, which are called crimes hediondos, which are like heinous crimes. Heinous. That's a crazy word. Here we got felony. Heinous, that just sounds so much worse than a felony, right? So, due to your crimes, the judge has decided leniency and to sentence you to 3 years for international drug trafficking and 1 year to formação de quadrilha for being a gang. And your sentence is 4 years and 3 months. Like, wait, she just said 3 years and then 1 year. That's 4 years. We're looking, lawyers going, just shut up.
Yeah.
Don't ask us anything right now. Don't freaking talk. Just shut up. Cool. Then literally this was maybe 30 minutes. She says you got 4 years and 3 months. We're like, oh God, he got it. Turns out that was his student that just became a judge. And he requested that the judge that hated us take vacation. You just go with your family somewhere and let us work this out. I don't know how much, I don't know if there was money exchanged. I don't know. But thank God in many ways for corruption.
Wow.
Because if there wasn't corruption, it would have been 25 years, right? So he just had...
And your father, I guess, who...
hired Paolo, ended up... This guy was the power. He was the attorney for this type of case, right? He can't get you out of it because we were on the news everywhere. So you can't just like, oh, yeah, sure, slap on the wrist. There's no way out of it, but you need the best of the best to get you the best.
Right.
So he got us the 4 years, and then after, we're going, what's it 3 months for? I don't understand what the extra... Listen, you may not be in jail, but 3 months extra is a long time, right? And because the 3 months was added on to, because the first couple months we spent in the federal police station, the cost that the state was incurred to harboring us, we have to pay for it with 3 more months. So it's 4 years, 3 months was our total sentence. And then literally got to the final destination, which was an observation center. Nicer prison, well, you can't even call anything nice, but nicer. So it was, 2 pavilions of like rapists, murderers, petty thieves, crazy stuff. 1 pavilion of mass murderers and what they call justicieros, which they're like the justices. I'm sure you've seen it on the news where, in Rio or something, that police officers will go kill 20, 30 street kids because the business owners don't want them hanging out and causing a ruckus in this. So it's a pretty dirty world. So like people that did that, would go out and kill people for money, and hitmen, and then us, which was murderers, but police officers that had killed people. Some people that have dealt, drug crimes, higher education. Since we did have higher education, it gave us a little bit of a privilege, right, to be in this pavilion that they did work hard to get us in. You're still risking, running risk because it's a prison. It don't matter, You're never with nice people in jail. Don't ever think you make friends in prison. It just doesn't happen that way. So, but at least it was a little bit better. And, we had to write out I did 3 years, almost 3 years and 8 months. I ended up befriending one of the guys that first met us when we were there. He was a pilot, and he ended up murdering somebody, but he flew for Pablo Escobar back in the days. He was in there for murder, so his name was Luis, spoke really good English, so we ended up talking. His family took care of us, brought us food on the weekends during visits, which was, to have real food, there's no thanks that I could give to that family. But so we ended up meeting him, and so it just turned into, hey, why don't you talk? Why don't Miss Lisa was the library lady. So I tried to have, just a good attitude as best you can, right? Because, you got to sell yourself in jail too when it comes to, if you want better things, or if you want to get a job, everybody needs a job, but not everybody can get a job. So the people that are able to get jobs, that works time off your sentence. So you work 3 days, you get 1 day off. I worked enough to get 7 months off my sentence, right? I mean, that's huge. So I ended up getting a job in the library. We'd go in the library and I'd teach people English and organize books, whatever. It was just a beat down old room with a bunch of books, and we just cleaned it up. And so, you ended up having to go on and realize that you're in there. It took a solid 8 or 9 months to really settle into the fact that
you're going to be there for a while.
Yeah, like every day. Imagine you count every day, but you have a couple thousand of those days to put out. You know what I mean? Like,
what was your lowest point in there once you'd been sentenced, do you think?
The realization that it wasn't so much about me. It was more about like what I did to other people. Like my family, especially my family, friends, my little sister at that time, she was shit. I think she was 7 or 8. No, she's 10 years younger than me. I was 22, she was 12. So I missed her going into junior high school. And she's like, I have a tattoo, baby C. That's my sister. So the realization of what an asshole I was, just in life, high school and then getting involved in this and doing this with my parents. But really the thought of every day that my parents don't know if I'm dead or alive, and there's no way for them to find out. So that ate on me for a while, like till I got home, really, to the fact that how would you feel if your kid's somewhere, but you don't know if you're going to wake up tomorrow with the call that, hey, they got murdered. You know what I mean? So I knew every day what was going on, but they didn't. So that was probably one of my lowest points of sinking into a dark place. You want to know dark? I was dark. Like, you can't get any darker, and that's where, because of that experience, and because of the laws that I gave myself, that I created the situation, that I still have people today, like when my episode airs, because I was on the Nat Geo channel on Locked Up Abroad, every time it airs somewhere in the world, I get at least 2,000 or 3,000 Facebook requests for friends and people messaging me, and I try to message as many people back as I can, and how's your father and this and that, and I have people, I see you have pictures in Brazil, and don't you hate that place? I get that question a lot. Why do you like Brazil? And I just question back, like, what did they do to me? I was the one that took the drugs. All they were doing is their job, right? So that's without the experience of, I think either I would have gone on a crazier path, because when you're in LA and it's kind of like your home turf, you feel invincible. So I could have either gone into something even worse. Who knows? Whatever the plan was for me in making that decision, getting my friends, we all go and spend time in jail. I wouldn't be who I am today with that. People ask me, would you do it over again? What would you change? I wouldn't change a thing.
Have you forgiven yourself for what happened? Because I guess it could be easy to sort of carry that with you and that regret and everything. How have you dealt with that?
You just touched on probably one of the most important days of my experience, was reality and realizing oneself. So you're a teenager, we all know we do stupid stuff, and you get involved with the wrong people, and you fight authority and parents, and I think the experience of this gave me so much positive in life. From me being a bad person, and these are those processes, right, that you sit and you think and analyze. Because when you're in a jail cell and you have nothing but time to either read, smoke a cigarette, do whatever you can to get your mind off of where you at, because that's probably the worst thing being in jail, is when the doors lock and you're locked in and confined to an area that you cannot leave, right? At least you can walk around in your pavilion, play volleyball or some indoor soccer, and not really indoor soccer, it's concrete with a little ball and flip-flops. But when you get confined into that area, that's where the darkness starts to happen, right? Because now it's your four walls and ugly gray paint, chipping paint, and you never know if a rat's going to pop up through your toilet type of thing, and you really have a chance to sit and think. My parents sent me books, like they sent me school books, Italian, how to speak Italian, like you'd take in 10th grade. So I could just read. I read like 2,600 books, a book a day, some 300 pages, some 1,000 pages. I just read. The reading then brought me to a place, I couldn't say I had an easy life. I had a rough life in the aspects of, divorced parents, and that too was a big realizing who oneself is. You realize, oh, well, maybe this was a trigger to why I really was a little bit crazy, because my dad divorced my mom, and now I hate the new mom, because remember the stepmom's the evil one, and she was a great lady, my stepdad, and so you're now going through this as a kid and the turbulence, and you start to really reflect. You have the time to sit and think like, why was I a dick? Why did I do these things? Why did I go off on a rebellious path? And you start to analyze everything. When I started to look at it, I finally accepted, I was pissed. And these are all talks that I had with my parents after I got home as an adult. You guys realize that I did a lot of this because I was potentially crying out because there was a divorce. And I didn't feel treated fair. All these things that people go through, they're afraid to talk about. So literally, the epiphany was I had so much anger. I had a lot of guilt to what I'd done to people, because I wasn't. There were times where we would get in, either a fight or something stupid. I didn't do a lot of really good stuff. I wasn't a horrible person, but I was kind of a jerk, and in a reckless way. And I realized that it isn't until you forgive yourself for what you've done that allows you to move forward to forgive others, to what they did for you, to you, right? So it was just that day in the mirror that, little square mirror about this big, you see into your soul. And it reverberates. You think about all right, I'm going to change my life. Here's your daughter. I just have to say hi to Che. So, I saw into my soul, literally, and was like, I forgive myself. I forgive the people that hurt me. I have to make a major change now because I'm going to go home someday. And I want to be a success. Or I don't want to be known when I go home as the guy that was, the drug trafficker. I'm not a freaking drug trafficker. I made a mistake. Categorize me, yes, I got arrested for drug trafficking. But by no means, that was my life, right?
And I guess it's a situation that, not everyone, but certain people with a rebellious tendencies that want to earn a bit of money, you put a lot of people in that situation, and a lot of people have probably made that gamble, thinking, well, particularly when you're that age and you're in that scenery. So
Right?
I can certainly understand how it happens.
And you see money, and then you see, girls, and at that age, wow, you can get kind of starry-eyed by that. And, but that's just a process that we go through as we grow. But when I got out, and then, which was another great thing about that is once we had been sentenced and then we knew we had X amount of time to do, my dad went one step further. His friend that was a consulate ended up knowing Pele. So out of all of this, I ended up becoming family friends with Pele, like the greatest soccer player ever, right? And his niece became our attorney. So my dad found, Pele through some friend and said, hey, call Pele. And his niece is an attorney and hire her. So through a doctor friend of my dad's, he got to Pele. And then all of a sudden this other attorney comes in, and because you don't know what's going on until someone comes and visits. Because usually a letter will show up after the visit.
Right.
They can't read it, so they'll hold on to it for like 3 months. And, and she looks a lot like her uncle, Daniele. Walks up and it's like, hi, who are you? Oh, I'm Daniele do Nascimento Magalhães. I was like, Nascimento, wait, that's... And she's like, oh, Pele's my uncle. I was like, oh my God, like, I have Pele's niece as an attorney, right? Like, wow, this is really cool. So I ended up becoming really good friends with her also, and she's the one that ended up getting everything taken care of us to get out. But it's back to the reality and the realization of, I now have a focus. I now have realized where my path took me, why I made some decisions, how am I going to change them? Do I want to be a criminal? No. This isn't my lifestyle. This is just something temporary that I made a mistake, and hopefully people will see me as something that just made a mistake. And I still to this day, 20 some odd years later, have to deal with people that call me a scumbag. And I have to accept it, because that's your opinion. How about look at me for who I am today? But I have to accept that as a person, that 22 years ago, I committed an extremely horrible crime. That affects lives of a lot of people.
Yeah.
I don't force you to do drugs, but if it wasn't for people like me, they wouldn't be there.
Right.
So, and it's given me a great outlook on just life with children and everything. So, it was, you either make that decision to change yourself, or you're going to be there every day. You're never going to change. You're going to be the definition of crazy. And that's...
And I guess you're still in, we talked about it with Tatted, but I guess you'll still be in a mental prison even though you're released, I guess.
Well, the biggest, I would say what everybody was worried about when I got out was who's he going to be, right? Is he going to be, because you got to admit, you go into prison, unfortunately, a majority of the time, your criminal game gets much stronger. You don't usually come out of prison like, oh, that was joyous. And usually you're coming out more educated on crime. You've made more connections on crime, and that's your focus, because nobody wants to give a criminal a second chance. Unfortunately, that's just the way it is. Thank God my felony was international, because I do not have a felony criminal record in America. Interpol doesn't even pay attention to me anymore because it's so long. But that was a blessing, right? So I speak Portuguese. I speak Spanish. I've got Brazilian wife, Brazilian. So it's the blessing of that minute then turned into who I was when I realized that I need to forgive myself and people that I've affected, and how am I now going to lay that foundation when I get home. When I got off the plane...
What was that like?
Wow.
Moment?
Well, my first day out was, Daniele came and got me. They brought my paperwork, said, Gringo, tomorrow at 11 o'clock, we're coming to open the door for you. Didn't sleep. It's like, you don't know what to do. I was cleaning my cell, and, why am I cleaning my cell? There's no reason for it. Pine sol on the ground, getting everything ready and packing up all my stuff. And they open up the door and walk me out, and Daniele, my lawyer's there, and, no handcuffs, high fives from the guards. Because I ended up becoming friends with a lot of the guys. You have to. You can't put yourself into being alone, so you have to have a little bit of society, and unfortunately it's just not the greatest parts of society, but you have to make friends. So it's even the police. I mean, there's some stories that I could tell you that literally would blow your mind. I'll just give you one. I ended up cutting people's hair, right? Because for some reason I was like, yeah, I'll cut your hair. So I ended up being able to have clippers in my cell. Now, mind you, that could become a very potential weapon. But you gain trust, and people, the guards know, because if you do screw up, you're screwed. So there was this one time at like maybe 10 o'clock at night. Every couple hours you hear the keys opening up the big gate, and then they come by with their key and tuck tuck on every door, look in to make sure you're there, tuck 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 tuck. And the door opened at like 10:30, which is off. And when that happens, it gets like TVs, because everybody has their little TVs in their cell. All of a sudden you hear like the volumes TVs like go down, because you don't know what they're coming, because it's not call time. Who they coming to get? So you're immediately like, oh shit. And, you could sit on your bed and look out the little hole in your door and see everybody's like eyes like looking up and down the hall. Who are they coming to get? And you hear knock knock on my door, and I was like, oh God, what did I do? I didn't do anything. Like, I don't have any. You immediately start worrying, like, do I have anything illegal in my cell? I have my clippers, but they gave them to me, and Gringo, come on. Okay, get up. They're walking, as you walk down the hallway, everybody's eyes are in their little doors, watching me walk down. Boom, boom, boom. Get downstairs, they open the other gate, and we go to this place called Inclusion, where all the officers and the jail employees would sit and have their coffee or whatever, in kind of like their lunchroom, I guess it would be. And he's like, as we, actually before we got down, start walking out the door, he looks at me, he's like, do you have those hair things? I was like, yeah, oh shit, I'm busted. Like, I grab them, and it's in a little plastic case, and I'm walking with them, and they walk me into the area where, usually that's the area where they all hang out, and if you're going to that area, sometimes it ain't really good for you. I get in there, they got some beers out on the table, they're all laughing, Skol beer, which is one of my favorites. If you ever go to Brazil, you got to drink Skol. Gringo! It's like, yeah, chefy. You call him chef, like boss. Hey, chef, what's up? And he's like, you got to cut our hair. Oh my God. My heart sank. I was like, cut your hair? They're like, yeah. You want a beer? Beer? Sure. Gave me a can of Skol beer, and said, plug your clippers in and give everybody haircuts. I was like, oh my God. So I was literally gone probably 2 hours. So I ended up just shooting the shit with them, drinking beers, trimming up their beards, and, yeah, you're a cool guy, Gringo. Yeah, blah, blah, blah. A couple hours later, that's when they take me back. And this is like 1 a.m, dead quiet. So you hear that key open the gates, and then obviously you could hear everybody's covers in their bed and all the eyes. And then the next morning, dude, what happened? Are you okay? What'd they do? And I was like, they called me out to cut all their hair. Everybody's like, oh man, we thought like you were done. Like we thought something was going to happen. So it was like, those things. So yeah, I mean, those little experiences that are actually kind of funny.
But not at the time.
But not at the time, and then they're enlightening when you know that you're not going to get beaten, that all you want to do is give you a beer and cut their hair. So the experiences have given me, everything that I've done today is all based on that one reality check in the mirror of, what am I now going to do? Am I going to go home, my parents and my family, thinking that I'm going to come home and have, post-traumatic stress syndrome? Because seriously, like, there's some crazy stuff that went down. Yeah. When you see people get killed, or you see a dead person, or you see, things that torture, it's not pleasing. Like there is those mental things that, to this day, that I still have crazy images of stuff that I saw. It's how you deal with those images. Right. In not suppressing them, not trying to be like, oh my God, this didn't happen. Hey, it happened. It was horrible, but it's now how do you take that forward? And my parents wondering if I'm going to have, if I'm going to first come home with some type of crazy ass disease. That was one of my biggest worries, because you're in a place without a clean environment. There's AIDS is rampant, hepatitis, AIDS, HIV, because it's just drug use and people that already have it, and people coughing. Like, you go to the people are it's so you hope to God you don't come home with the disease. We played. I remember there was one time Carlone, which was a really cool guy. He ended up at a hospital, got hurt, and he had to go transfer. Ended up getting HIV at a hospital. Right? So now you're just sentenced to death because of this. And we're all playing basketball, and the walls were really rough. So we had a basketball hoop that we made out of a rim from a bicycle. They let the welders make a little, so we can, because now there's Americans, let the Americans play basketball, because we only do little soccer ball and volleyball. So we'll build a basketball hoop for the gringos. And he goes up for a layup, and he's a big dude, like 6'3". Goes up for a layup, misses, hits the wall and scrapes, right? He's bleeding. And I'm covering him. And after he hits the wall, we kind of both fall up, get scraped, turns around, and literally, as he turns, I go like this, and his shoulder hits me, and all this blood on my chest. I literally was like, oh my, and he was like, hey, come on, let's go wash you. I mean, he's conscious to what's happening, And that's one of those moments you go, oh my God, like, that messed me up for a couple weeks. I was like, I just literally got blood all over me. Now they're not going to test me here. So I had to spend almost 2 years after that, like, could I get sick from this? Yeah. Thank God I got home and, went and did tests and all that. That was the first thing I did, was went and tested to see if I caught anything. Just because, what if I got HIV? Yeah. That's
so all that's sort of
that's in your brain,
floating over you at the same time as well.
Yeah, and then you're stuck in a cage. And see, mental strength, I think, was one of the biggest things that I was able to take away from that, in understanding that the power that you have as an individual can be either frightening or enlightening. You could either be a great human being, or what a human can do could be absolutely terrifying. So choose that path of goodness, and it's not hard. It's way more difficult to lie and BS people than it is just to tell the truth and be a good person. That's what I had to realize out of all this, is like, being good is actually much easier. And just helping people and figuring out where your path is. And literally, that's where body weight kind of came in.
So when you left, then what did you have any idea of what you was going to do? Because I guess it wasn't easy to get a job.
No, it wasn't. So I got home. Everybody's at the airport. Brendan. It was kind of like I got off the plane. It was like a hi. I could see everybody kind of like, what's his reaction going to be? Is he going to be unstable, or is he going to be
normal?
Who's he going to be? Normal Brendan, Get off the plane. What's up? Literally, I prepared for 2 years. This day, and the fortitude of knowing that every day I'm going to educate myself. I'm going to read. I'm going to do everything in my power to figure out what my path would be when I get home. Because there was no internet when I left. There was no cell phones when I left. I got back to this thing called frickin' internet, dial-up modem, Earthlink, computers that hook onto this thing that all of a sudden you can talk to this thing called Google and get information, right? So I went from like the Stone Age, literally, to modern technology, from being completely absent in a jail cell. So, you get home and you go, your friends are now graduating from college, because most of them all went to university. 4-year degrees at a university. I just got a 4-year degree in life, as I call it. I read way more books than every one of my friends that ever went to college and got their master's degree. So at least I feel good about that. But you get home and you go, man, what am I going to do? The comfort was if I didn't want to tell people, like on an application, and I conferred this with my father, thank God, do I have to write that I'm a convicted felon? He's like, absolutely not. Number one, and my dad will still tell you this to this day, number one, your fucking case was illegal. They could have never processed you because you didn't understand. There was no translator for you, right? So actually, it was unduly processed. Like, we didn't have any of that. So like, your case didn't count, da-da-da-da. And, you know, she's like, no, you absolutely don't, because you didn't commit a crime in America. You committed a crime in a foreign land. You've served your time. You're on Interpol. But so that didn't really affect me, and was one of the blessings almost that I didn't get arrested here, because your life is literally almost destroyed. Success stories like Tatted, Strength Cartel, those guys that have able to create their own life where they didn't depend on having to get a job where people can go ex-felon. No, they created their own path, right? So I think that actually turns some convicted people into great entrepreneurs, because they're forced to take that path. But I didn't have to worry about that. So it's like I get home and my friends are, you know, graduating from college, degrees, and this one's working for his parents, and this one's now this, and he's becoming a teacher, and I'm going, dude, what is the internet? Like, show me how to do this. Oh, you dial a number and watch Netscape, you know? And so it was like my buddy Matt, artist, amazing guy. He worked, a couple of my friends ended up working for MTV. He was the art director, the set director for the artistic part of MTV. And it's one of those things like, Matt, got anything? He's like, you want to be a PA? I was like, what's PA? Production assistant. I was like, sure. He's like, it's $250 a day. Absolutely. It was $250 of a hard work day, but you know, coming back, working for MTV as a production assistant, you know, on shows like Jenny McCarthy. So I got to learn, like, see how production happened, right? How they produced these shows. Doing PA where it would be, you know, the celebrity would be like, oh, you know, Jenny wants this, go to the supermarket and craft service and get a whole bunch of stuff. Cool, here's a credit card. Or, you know, go drive the van. So it was grunt work, you know, load a whole container of sand, move it over here in wheelbarrows because we need to make the volleyball pit over there, but the truck can't go there, so you got to dig it all by hand. All right, so, you know, went into that, did PA work, and then my uncle, which was Uncle Bob, that came down with my dad, which is, you know, one of the saviors of my life and one of my greatest mentors, he owned Semco Fitness. Semco's still around today. They make dumbbells, plates. You've seen Semco. Yeah. So Juan, his former floor manager, him and his son now own the company. My uncle since passed many years ago. He passed about 8 years ago. They now own the company. But, you know, one day, that's where my start in fitness really came. My dad was like, you know, Bob wants to see you. All right, awesome. So get ready and go down and talk to Uncle Bob. All right, I was ready. Shoes. I was going to be a salesman. Fitness, yeah. I walk in the door, Bob, you know, and he's another culprit of my bad language because him and my dad, every other word is F. And he looks at me and I walk in his little office and he's got his glasses on. And he always has a rubber band on his wrist because when he gets nervous, he'll snap the rubber band. Snapped his rubber band and I look like, Bob. He looks up and he goes, what the fuck are you wearing? Looked down and I was like nice clothes to come work, you know, thinking I'm gonna be a sales guy. It's like, go home, go grab some steel toe boots from Juan, go home, get a pair of jeans and a t-shirt on. You're unloading containers. I was like, oh, wow. He just dumped me like into the warehouse. Okay.
But did you ever, did your attitude change to things that probably previously you just thought, that's not a good situation? Did things suddenly, even the worst stuff, look a lot better?
Oh, absolutely. Are you kidding me? A hot shower, working the warehouse. It was more of a deflation to my ego than it was I'm not going to do that job. If you would have told me, scrub the toilets with your fingernails, absolutely, let me grow my nails out longer. You know what I mean? So he told me, no, you're unloading containers. Ego kind of went home, changed. And I started unloading containers, building weight stacks, learning how to make weight stacks, learning how to cut steel, chamfer, mill steel, learning how to knurl Olympic bars, how to treat steel, learning the whole process by being there. That was his goal for me. He wanted to see if I was going to do it. After you go through the process, you start to figure out that's why he did this, right? Is making me work from the bottom. So literally sweeping the floor and unloading. Now, you know what a container is. Back in those days, they weren't crating our Olympic plates. So they would toss 38,000 pounds worth of 45-pound plates, Olympic plates, individual boxed, into the container.
They still do it now, actually, in a lot of cases.
Instead of 2,000 pounds in a box that you could forklift out, it is 38,000 pounds, 45-pound plates, 35s, 25s, and then the 10s or 44 in a box, and they
handball them off.
One would have one of the guys forklift, put a pallet right in the container. Okay, go. And I would, and the 45s are back here, 35s are in, so you'd literally have to unload because they want all the 45s. And this pallet, 35s. So I was doing 38,000 pounds of Olympic plates, unloading containers, take 2 days to do it by myself, learning the business.
Yeah.
And then one day, my uncle was just like, hey, all right, I want you to come in and sell. Great. Became a salesman for my uncle. It was the opportunity he gave me to really feel like I was doing something and that I deserved it, that I worked hard. He's giving me an opportunity to now sell, and this was in the age of what it was just us. Iron Grip had just launched, a year or two before, and my uncle made their products for them, and Ivanko, Troy Barb, but he was like one of the founders he was the first one to do a steel dumbbell and all kinds of stuff. So, and his weight stack business was amazing. So I literally got to start selling in the fitness industry. My first trade show was Club Industry, when Club Industry was big in Chicago. Started doing URSAs and learning this insanely awesome fitness industry, the health and fitness industry. And because of being in jail, and the only thing you do is push-ups and pull-ups and stuff like that and let your mind go crazy, is, little did I know that sketches and ideas of how to exercise in jail would then culminate many years later to working for my uncle, to then coming up with the concept of CrossCore.
And how did you come up with CrossCore then? How did that?
It was so.
And CrossCore for everyone is well, you explain what it a type of suspension trainer.
I don't want to break, trademark codes, but suspension trainer based on a pulley wheel with the locking mechanism to stop the pulley. So it's how it kind of conceptually came up with in jail, the doors, you have your door, and then above it there's a little like ventilation system with the steel grate, steel fence. So the other guys, my friends, they worked in the area where they made wallets, and they had little thimbles like with the thread to sew the wallets, and they look like almost dumbbell handles, right? So I was like, oh, this is kind of cool. So we would then use those and put rope through them, tie them around liter bottles, 5 or 6 liter bottles, put a broomstick in between it and have, 6 liter bottles tied to the end and use them, and then you could pull the stick out and then it would become a dumbbell handle. And then I was looking up at the route, I was like, oh, wait, let me try this. So then you're allotted some things in jail, right? Yeah, some people have some illegal stuff, but as long as, they know who you are and you're not going to go murder somebody with a rope. And so I had a little bit of rope, had those 2 handles, and I was like, oh. So I put I tied the string that was tied through one of the little handles. I ended up tying onto the metal grate, throwing the other piece of rope over it with 2 of the other handles, and literally just doing exercises with it. And because it was just a piece of thin rope threaded rolled over that little roller, it would just move. No thought ever put into it. Like, oh, wow, okay, I'm gonna do this. Put it really tight, and you could hold on to it and do pull-ups. It rubbed your fingers on the wall and made them raw from doing pull-ups, but hey, this was kind of cool. Fast forward, started working with my uncle Semco, seeing the industry, then had a falling out, unfortunately with my uncle due to that long other story. Still friends, but business-wise, it didn't work out. And so I ended up leaving. And my friend that owned this internet company, iron company, he's a big dude. And so we went to Ursa when TRX launched. We're walking through Ursa, and there's this big commotion at this booth that has these yellow and black things. You know, walk over, and me and JP are like, "What, TRX? Let's check it out." Walked up, and I see these straps. Immediately, I was like, "Oh, dude, I got something that blows that away." That was my first thought, right? I got something that blows that away. And JP looked at me, he's like, "Yeah, right, stupid. You know, we're here for business. Let's do our jobs and find out what we're going to bring onto the website because we're looking for new products to sell." And, you know, so now it's in my mind. I was like, "Oh, this thing is way better," because it was amazing. Remember, Johnny Hines and Lifeline had a very similar product that was before TRX, but never was into the fitness like Ursa and taking this chance. So I look and I was like, oh, my product blows this away, just my idea, right off the bat, because it allows more movement. Genius of Randy. He literally brought a whole new category to fitness with that thing.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh my God, if this thing is awesome, well, I can do this too. So, you know, I working for JP doing sales, and it just kind of concept comes up, it comes up again. It's like, oh, dude, what I've got idea-wise will just kill this thing. And he just looks at me and goes, all right, bring me a prototype. And if you bring me a good prototype, I'll invest. I was like, all right. I literally, because I work for my uncle, I had all these connections in manufacturing. So I was like, I reached out to Icarian, you know, the pulley housings that you weld to the top of a machine just to put the pulley wheel in.
Right, yeah.
Like, okay, I can use that. I'll put a pulley. I tried multiple diameters, you know, from like a 3-inch to a 4 to a 6 to see what's going to be the best balance and feel comfortable. And I literally had them put a pulley in, took it to JP, and is like, I was using it for a couple of days, and I said, come on. So he came over to my house, and I put him on it, and he could not do a push-up. I was like, oh. He's like, we're in. I'm in. Let's do this. Then I started doing my research. You know, you got to do your patent and trademark research and start doing all of this. And, you know, we've got TRX to tend with and other companies. And the one thing that was hindering was it's a pulley. How are you going to get pulley patented? It's been around for God knows how many years, you know. And so then the patent examiner is giving us all this flack, and we hired a great firm, which I would never do again today because they were way too expensive. I've learned. But they ended up coming back and saying, you know, as we're talking to the attorneys, like, you'll never get this patented because it's a standard pulley. And I'm sitting there going, no, wait a minute, there is a way. There's a total way, so let me just think about this. How do I make this so it's patentable? Well, you got to stop the pulley from rotating. So actually, why is that going to be good? Because it will still give you a semi-type of TRX being with the pulley not moving, but because the rope is draped over a pulley, if you do force on one side more, that dominant side takes over to start to slide. So it gives you a little bit more feedback, yet it's not locking it up totally.
Right.
So I was like, okay. I literally grabbed a drill, put the pulley housing on. I drilled right through the pulley and the housing, turned the pulley, marked it, and I put 4 holes in the pulley. So no matter where you went, it was just a quarter turn. I went, my Uncle Carl owned a machine shop. I went and got, you know, the weight stack pins, the magnetic weight stack pins. It's like, okay. Went and picked up a weight stack pin, chopped it off so it was just long enough to come out the other side of the pulley housing with the magnetic thing on it, little lanyard cable. I was like, here you go. I literally drilled holes, stopped the action of the pulley, and I said, this actually has meaning and purpose behind it. And they're like, you're gold. We got a patent. And then literally JP was my first investor. His parents and his father ended up investing. And I made my first 3,000, almost 4,000 units in my garage, pieced out to different manufacturers. You know, you build and weld the pulley housing. You do the lanyard cable with the magnetic pin. I still had, you know, the crimps. I had to literally put the lanyard cable through the hole, pop it into the crimp, take the crimping things, you know, crimp it down. The first almost 4,000 units out of my garage. with my jiu-jitsu instructor that was living with me at the time. And we would just sales. I had my little office set up in my garage. And it was, how do I do this? And it go out and do it. And it was, I will say it was, when you're the little guy on the block, with a couple $100,000 of investment, not a lot in the bank, you still had to make product and get a couple thousand units made. Thank God we were able to do them in America and local. But, when you're the little guy on the block and you got to go to your first URSA, and you know what this is about, and you got to drop $20,000 for a 20 by 20 booth to compete, and 4 aisles over you have these guys, TRX, with this amazing looking booth, a crazy team of people and all this excitement. You sit back and go, ooh, wow, this is the time. But it was probably one of the greatest days of my life, because it was like I felt legitimate in an industry that I'd been in now for almost 10 years as a salesperson of free weights and manufacturing stuff and creating relationships, to someone that's now invented and created a product and patented it and created the training protocols. And I wasn't way back then focused on becoming a personal trainer or super knowledgeable in human anatomy and biomechanics and all that. It was kind of like, how do I want to move? What made me feel good to move? And this made me feel good.
Yeah.
So it was like, if I could just bring, with no bullshit, just put this thing up, get a little rack. It's not going to look as, do what we can and put it up and let people feel this thing. That's it. Yeah. And then just you as a person touching people and reaching people without being fake. Hi, come say, no, this is, come check it out, be as real as you can. Hopefully people are going to feel your vibe and appreciate it. And literally it was one of those glorious weekends where the feedback was, this is TRX on crack. What is this thing? Oh my God, we've never heard of it. And it validates.
I guess it must have been quite an achievement to sort of start from scratch and to
then fight the big dog.
Build something like that. And so how many years did you keep that? Because you sold that company, didn't you? To
Mad Dog Athletics.
Right. How long did that take to build and then get a buyer?
So, God, we were 4 years, almost 4 years, and they came on board because we were looking for manufacturing, because we had to step it up and take it to Asia, because it wasn't cost effective still to do it here, unfortunately. Yeah. When you got a pulley system and moving parts, and it's not a piece of webbing with some handles on it. This is actually a piece of equipment. So that was the hardest part of relaying to people, like, guys, this isn't $18 worth of webbing. This is actually a steel housing I have in my backyard 10 years later. The same original ropes, the same original webbing, still hanging in my backyard, being used today. So the catch was, it could last forever.
Yeah.
So you get the one-time buy, but it's still built like a tank. And the relationship with them started because we needed a solid manufacturer. I didn't want to go to China. The thought was Taiwan, because not that China's quality was any worse. Taiwan's quality obviously is a bit better. Quality control a little bit better. But key factor being less likelihood of being knocked off in Taiwan, right? So they were our lead into manufacturing the product overseas to help drive down the cost, and they made their revenue through us buying the product and them being the manufacturer. And then it just snowballed into my partners wanted to, seize the opportunity, let's sell it to these guys, and Mad Dog ended up taking it over. I think it was almost 6 years ago today.
Fantastic.
Yeah. So, that was another big point. As much as I still would love to be involved with it. I still am, because I still represent and have the product and use it. Obviously, I'll never give that up. But it wouldn't have allowed me to create the WCO also.
So how did I guess we come full circle now then. So you sold the company, and then what made you come up with, tell us about World Calisthenics Association.
So
what are you doing and why did you do that?
That was, it's weird how life works and how stories and paths stay the same, but they change. So a buddy of mine because I got heavily involved in MMA with the promoting, and I had a bunch of friends that are fighters. So a buddy of mine, Bobby, handled all of the MMA stuff for the Fit Expo. And I gave Bobby one of my products. These are all my friends. Like, yeah, dude, work out on this and this and that. So I was like, Bobby, hey, you know, Freddie George, one of my old MMA guys, me and Freddie became friends, and Freddie loves it. And he's like, you got to come to the Fit Expo with us, because we have our big MMA area, so we do sparring and we do glove work, and we can put up a rack and do CrossCore, right? Just show people what it is. So I was like, awesome. Had a little, you know, rack made. Started going to the expo with Freddie, and then that turned into a little bit bigger. Then I made a little bit bigger rack, and a couple, I think it was my second or third one, I had these guys, which is my current partner, Ken Galarzo, Progressive Calisthenics, if nobody knows who he is. Frank Madrano, Warren Lee, and Miles. They were the first three I met, was Frank, Warren, and Miles. Literally came up, I was doing some stuff on the CrossCore, and I had this rack that was what all CrossFit racks look like now, because I didn't have any money, so it was like a steel post with just a long pull-up bar to connect it. So they come up and they're like, hey bro, you know, can we do some stuff on your rack? I was like, yeah, sure, have some fun. It's nothing, the calisthenics they did then was nothing like what you see today. But you know, they were doing some decent little muscle ups and some front lever attempts and back levers and human flags, and I was like, this is really cool. You know, this is like, we used to do this when we were kids, and wow, hey guys, you know, what are your names? Oh, Warren and Frank, and you know, Frank Madrano, ultimately today, everybody knows who Frank Madrano is, and so that kind of was the kickoff. I met them, and then a couple weeks later, Ken Galarzo was part of the whole group, and me and Ken started brainstorming, and I still had CrossCore at that time. And I was like, for sure, let's start doing something. Let's figure out how I can harness this. I love what you guys do. Come to Ursa with us. I'll get you guys a hotel room, and I'll give you $100 each, right? Because this would be cool in my booth. Second Ursa we do. Have my big red rack in the middle of my 20 by 20 booth. Nothing around. Frank and the guys show up and start doing muscle ups and human flags and all this stuff. And all of a sudden, people just started gathering around the CrossCore booth in droves, like 20 people deep around the whole island, watching these guys do calisthenics. You know, and it wasn't the crazy calisthenics. It was just some cool stuff. The light clicked. I was like, this is the entertainment that I need to bring customers, right? Because ultimately, if you're using it and then you're doing this crazy stuff, people are gonna be like, wow, does he use this? If he uses it, I want to use it because I want to be that strong. So that kind of was like the epiphany happened then. I need to bring you guys to all my shows, and that ended up helping them get into the actual fitness industry. And me and Ken sat back, and it was the very beginning, and a bunch of us were doing it in Venice and, you know, at the parks, local parks, and we were like, let's do a little competition with everybody, because we had about 20, 30 people at the time. We're like, Bar Wars. This is called Bar Wars. It was in Venice Beach. We're like, all right, let's do Bar Wars. So everybody came. I think I still actually have video content of this. Showed up at Venice. Arash, another buddy of mine that was a big channel on YouTube called Strength Project, came to film it. So they had, you know, nicer cameras back in those days. And it was just like, okay, one bar, and let's see who could do what, and, you know, we'll give a prize. It'll be like $50 and a t-shirt or something. Let's just, whatever. And people, the tourists, started gathering around the sand pit at Venice, like watching us. Then it's like, hey, do you guys have permits for this? We're like, no. That's just a regular camera. We just come here and work out, and we're just kind of doing a friendly competition. Because it got so busy, the city actually now wanted to know what we were doing. So right there, I was like, this is interesting. This is something on an entertainment level, because I had been involved in MMA when UFC was just being born, and had a business with Tito and Fabiano back in the days. So I looked at it entertainment-wise. It was amazing, but nobody's getting kicked in the face, so you don't have to worry about the violence. And it's a very individual sport, like gymnastics also, but it's not on it's not structured like we could just turn this into something really cool. B-boy street environment. So me and Ken, this thing went off and I was literally like, all right, what are we gonna do? USPTO, bar wars, taken, right? So, we can't call it bar wars. So then I started researching Battle of the Bars. Oops, called my lawyer. What's it cost? $1,100? Okay, I'm sending you a check tomorrow. Get Battle of the Bars. I need that trademark right now. So, we spent the time getting the trademark. That became the name. The next expo we did, it was Battle of the Bars 3, I think it was, or 2, San Jose. The guy that did a lot of filming for the Ultimate Fighter show, through my buddy Bobby and all these MMA connections we had, we had red cameras, made this a production to go up to San Jose and do this competition and call it Battle of the Bars. And it was something so incredible that when we actually did this event, I literally built my rack. We didn't have P-bars. So I had a regular like CrossFit style rack, no P-bars, which everybody needed because that's what we're in the parks. And I was like, oh my, how do we do this? So I literally went to a plumbing supply store and got galvanized plumbing pipe with the little elbows, made our own little P-bar thing, took a dip station that connects to the racks, drilled holes in the handles, made sure that it could telescope onto the pipes, drilled it, bolted it together, spray painted it red by hand, took it to our first Battle of the Bars, and it was like, this is the rack. And it organically just started growing from there. And the Fit Expo said, you guys need to do this as a one-off because we can't do it in MMA. This is super exciting. You want to do this with us at all the expos. And it was never planned. It just kind of like, they gave the offer, and you ever hear that, like, fake it till you make it, So they came here, it looked almost like we were an actual organization, right? Doing a real event, when it was just, bro, let's get a rack, let's figure this shit out. You guys want to battle? You're going to battle? Okay, cool. Let's just, what are the rules? I don't know, just go up and do some stuff, and we'll say who wins. And, from there, then you obviously have to take it serious, and you have to go, okay, this is something viable. There's a high level of entertainment to it. How do I go out and, fund this? Because now I have no money. It's to sponsors, fitness industry. So I'm just started calling friends in the industry. Hey, you want to sponsor my event? What is it? I had to go out to more B2C type products, right. Chalk, wrist wraps and things. And friends that I had in the industry said, listen, they charge $1,500 for a booth, sponsor my event for $1,000. You can have a booth in there and we'll put banners up. And when I show them short clips of how busy our area was, everybody was like, oh, absolutely. It's less than paying the expo, because the expo, thank God, gave me the freedom. Said, in your area, just do what you do. These are the guys that, Aaron Ferris, wherever you are, hands down the gasoline that helped start the fire. Because without the Fit Expo, I wouldn't have a forum to do this, right? Or, $25,000 to buy 80 by 80 area to then set up in. So when they invited me, they thought we were a business. I didn't have, literally our first event, don't get mad at me, Aaron. I didn't have insurance. I didn't know what the hell we were doing. Like, I knew how to run a business, but I didn't know what this was going to do. So it was like, let's do I'm not putting any money into this. We've got our rack because of CrossCore, so I have everything. Let's see what happens. So it was literally shoestring budget, no money. Got some sponsors, a couple $1,000 to do it. It was some trophies. It was a one-off. Expo came and said, you want a big area? Come on tour with us.
And you're not just in the US, you're doing this globally now. Yeah.
So it's turned into, and one of the main focuses, which the WCO being an organization, we have two focuses: education, teaching movement, teaching calisthenics, and then our entertainment section, which is the promotion of Battle of the Bars, creating athletes. Athletes then become coaches, create careers off of it. So now we started in LA. LA then turned into LA and San Jose. The Fit Expo started growing, and it took us about 3 years with the Fit Expo to really grow, because this didn't exist. There was a company in Russia that was doing something similar. They started about 6 months before us. I don't want to even mention my competitors' name. So, literally, it was from nothing. The education component was the most important because I came from CrossCore, and creating this training tool that my life was about educating people and giving people opportunities to discover the best they can be through physical exercise, working on your mind and things. So I had the experience in teaching, in leading workshops and educating people on products, in sales, et cetera, and looked at this and went, this is exactly what our industry needs coming from the fitness industry. I wasn't focused on the entertainment, I was focused on the fitness industry, going, our industry needs a big effing change. Because it started to become so diluted with BS that you're just getting sold every snake oil in the world. I mean, nothing against certain companies, and I don't like to mention names, but there's just such gimmicky stuff that come out that is for the sale. It's not for the consumer. It's a bunch of crap, and I really wanted to be the bastard that creates waves. And if that's what I have to do, let's change it. Move your body first before you start moving objects. Period. If you can't move efficiently here, why do you think you're going to be able to move efficiently lifting a 50-pound bar?
Yeah, that's right.
Or a dumbbell or a sandbag or whatever that tool is. And God forbid, do not get on a machine with a weight stack. Because I came from that industry, and we need them obviously in this world, but once again, if you lock yourself into a single dimensional movement, and that's what your life becomes, getting on the pec deck, getting on this, getting on the row machine, you're actually hurting yourself in the long run, is my opinion.
Yeah.
You're not actually moving like a human should. So education was the passion that I had because I love teaching, and getting that feedback from people, learning. You can't buy that. It's great to get paid to do something like that. That's the beautiful part about it. But you can't buy that coach. Wow, you blew my mind.
And what's the goal for that organization then? Where do you see that? Where do you want to take it?
I want it to be, ultimately I want this sport to be recognized as a fitness sport. A lot like, B-boy competitions or extreme Red Bull type competitions, but this is the UFC of fitness, is what I want it to be, right? That people look at this as, dude, who's, XX is battling on Battle of the Bars. To be in the health and fitness world as an entertainment section, a lot like CrossFit, how they have the CrossFit Games, but on a scale where you're actually now, you've got your athlete that you follow, your character, whether it's, Bar Sparta guys, or there's teams, and these guys have characters and they have names, Tatted Strength, world champions. So there's so much to be able to do with these kids, and the goal is educate as part of our revenue stream. Teaching workshops around the world. We're teaching this month, we have one in Prague, one in Poland, next month again in Prague, and then another one in Guatemala. So the education portion drives some of the revenue that helps support the company. Being an organizing body of teaching people, and then the entertainment level. Being in every house, being in every fitness person's house, being in every kid's house, because it's non-demographic.
Something everyone can do, yeah.
I mean, your kids,
Yeah.
which is one of the coolest things in the world, come and play with my son at these events, so you're not just getting the wow of this. Imagine if you went to a fight, UFC, and then after these guys just punched each other crazy in the face, you got to go in the octagon and roll around with them.
Yeah.
What an experience that, obviously you can't do that with 30,000 people,
Yeah.
but what an experience that would be. So that's, at the expos, that's our focus, is everybody can go. Kids, girls, older people. We have people in wheelchairs that cruise up that are doing stuff. We have the bodybuilders come over and see. You've been to an event, so you see it, but it's an open demographic. We want to create opportunities in fitness for people to have careers. So a lot of our athletes come from, lower income areas. They don't have money. They learned this at the park. They didn't do gymnastics. Wow, you've become a really good athlete. why don't you go look into NASM or ACE or get a certification in fitness, because this is what you like doing. You could turn this into a career.
So how do people get, if they want to find out or get involved, come to an event, learn how to do it? What are the ways that people would find out about that?
Most of our stuff, social media.
Right.
Everything depends nowadays, social media. So it's the world_calisthenics_org for Instagram, and then just World Calisthenics Organization for Facebook. So we promote it on Facebook, Instagram, and then the expos are great because most of the expos, LA, I think we're expecting 72,000 in 2 days.
Wow.
So, we get live, putting people through an experience, which you can't do on TV, that live event. So we have that opportunity to reach that many people visually, and it's all based on social media. Our athletes that compete, they're out on social media saying we're going to, battle the bars this weekend. So the only way out there without spending that money on advertising, because we spend $0 on advertising, we don't buy followers, everything's organic, and we just create that awareness. And
so Facebook, Instagram's the best.
Facebook and Instagram.
Yeah,
we have, and one big mention is, we've just launched a couple months, actually like about 8 months ago. We don't promote it yet. It's growing, WCOTV.com. The reason we did that is because we wanted more creative freedom, and to be able to get the larger sponsorship dollars and create value for our sponsors, we can't do a live event on Facebook and or YouTube and put commercial airtime in there.
Right.
So what's the only other option is, you have to figure out how to do it yourself. So we invested in our own active lifestyle online network that we produce all of our own content. And soon we're going to stream all of our Battle of the Bars live there. But it's the place that we've created as a kind of not a middle finger to a lot of these streaming things that they get to make a lot of money off your content, but don't allow you to.
Straight to market, yeah.
Go straight to market, and we control our pre-roll advertising, our banner ads, and we control our environment.
Yeah.
And it's not, you're not going to get diluted with a bunch of other stuff. It's active lives, and we got a guy that's the best, the #1 world jet skier. We did a lifestyle piece on him, and it's just about active people. So you could see a lot of all of our events, the final edits go on there, and in social media and everywhere in the world. Like I never thought that in 6 years, I always had that plan, going into business for yourself. You always look at it, 3-year plan is never the plan you need to go with. You always got to look at, where can I go in 5 to 6 years? Is it viable? Because anything's viable in 3 years, but in 5 to 6 years is still. So I was looking at can this work in 5 to 6 years? Now that we're almost 6.5 years into it, and it's working. It's knowing that we're going to have to go through that long struggle for people to be like, okay, you're not crazy. Because I was called an idiot. I was called crazy. I was like, bro, you're stupid. What do you mean? You're going to pay these guys to do this? Why don't you keep that sponsorship money? No. I want to create this to where these guys that come from nothing and work their ass off, come battle, next weekend, you win $2,000 cash, and you qualify to go to Dubai, which is about $8,000 to $9,000 cost per athlete. And sometimes we have 22 athletes. So a sport that can create a livelihood for people, for athletes, but people, for years.
I guess it's a better option, isn't it? If you compared to where you were, your options at that time, or the glamour and the glitz to go to foreign country was probably the wrong road. And I guess what you're kind of doing is giving kids also an opportunity to probably direct that same energy, but for something that's probably a lot better.
If I would have had somebody like me, my life may have been different, but I also, and on the other side is I'm glad I didn't. I'm glad I had the life I had, and I suffered what I suffered due to my actions, because it's ultimately given me the love and the grind to do what I like to do, which obviously we all like to make money, right? Because we have to provide for our families and everything. But when the money becomes secondary, it just starts to happen. There's times, I'm not lying, in the last couple of years, I've driven for Postmates. There's stuff that you just gotta do to make things happen. If it means that, hey, Matt, we got to finish our interview because I have to go deliver food to make this a reality, rock and roll. You know, if I have to clean bathrooms to do it, that's what I learned of being in a confined space, is to appreciate everything possible on earth that you're able to do. But also never lose the work ethic and always respect the people that are helping you.
Yeah.
You know, because it's not easy, but...
No. So a couple of last questions, because I appreciate your time today, and I know you've got stuff to do. But so two things then. So looking back, you've obviously got a unique experience as an entrepreneur, and you know, being through a situation. I don't hope for anyone really. What if you look back and have to probably advise people like a younger version of yourself? You know, what would you say to people? Probably, you know, what advice would you give to like your probably 19-year-old self about life and business and how they could probably, you know, go down a slightly different path?
So that's actually very interesting. I just had a conversation about that, and it was actually a focus piece with, I work with Just Keep Living Foundation, Matthew McConaughey's foundation, where they support lower income schools with health benefits. Like they work at fitness programs, diet, community service programs. So they have 13 schools in Los Angeles, 33 total, from Austin, New York, Washington, and California. The October phrase was "Don't leave crumbs." So every month they come up with a new slogan for the month. My plan when I first went, because they actually brought me on to go speak with lower income kids and kids that could potentially have issues or problems because of their situation. Because of my experience, they saw my National Geographic project, and my sister knew some people, so they put it together, saw my program, were like, wow, we'd really like to have you come speak to these kids. So I was putting together what I was going to speak to them about, and my focus was going to be about decision making. No matter what age you are, decision making, right? The process. And all of a sudden the next day, after writing out my speech that I was going to speak to these kids about, I get the monthly quote and the quote from Matthew was, "Don't leave crumbs. Because if you lead a life of leaving bad crumbs, that bird's always going to kind of follow and peck up and catch up with you." So, wow. Like it was just such a perfect combination that I wanted to talk about decision making, and this was a thing about how you make decisions. Speaking to kids these days, you know, I think when I look back on it, and when we would have people come in and speak to us, right, the assemblies at schools, it was kind of like, you know, because there was never anything that you could really relate to as a young kid. You know, okay, you're a firefighter. Everybody wants to be a firefighter when they're kids, but, you know, that's, you know, or this. So there's never anything that I felt that I could connect to when we had to go to these audience, I can't even remember what the word is. So what my thought is, you know, how can I connect with these kids on a level of being them, still being, you know, 47, 48 years old, but being able, and it was just simply, walked in and I was like, I didn't speak like an adult. Like, all right, say, what's up, guys, you know. They kind of look, because if you could speak their language, I have an 18-year-old daughter. I know the music these kids are listening to. I know all the new hit and stuff. I know all the Gucci's, and I know all these, you know, all this, everything that they're doing. So it's good because I have a young daughter, so I could see where they're coming from, and I could talk to them like kids. So the plan, just go in, speak to them like kids, and ask them what their issues are, and talk to them about decision making. And my decisions ultimately led to what I did because I didn't think about them. Take 10 seconds. 10 seconds could change your life, right? Instead of just making a hasty response, if your friends are like, oh yeah, bro, we're gonna go break into cars tonight, take 10 seconds, take 10 breaths, and make a good decision. Think about two things, the good and the bad. There's only two ways. There's never a happy medium in between doing something wrong and doing something good. There just isn't. So understand that right from the bat. Don't bullshit me, you know, because I drop a couple bombs in class, and and I always tell the teachers, you guys don't be frightened by my language sometimes, but I'm not going to BS with these kids. The kids need to be spoken to as you're a peer to them, and you're not trying, and that I'm not trying to tell them what to do, but I'm sharing my experience with you and the decisions I made. So it boils down to decisions. That's it. Take a minute to think about what the effect is going to be, not just on you, but on your mom, your dad, your sister, your brothers. Some of you may not have sisters, brothers, or moms. You may have grandma because you may not have a family. What's it going to do to grandma? If you're an orphan, what's it going to do to potentially your future? So no matter what your circumstance is, I don't care if you're poor, if you're on food stamps, I don't care if your parents have money and you're the one that drives the BMW. My buddy Tatted Strength was in prison all his life with drug-addicted parents dying early. I was a white kid that came from upper middle class neighborhood. We both met in the same place, in prison. Not literally meeting, but we both ended up there. So there's the concept of you have to be a gangster, you have to come from bad to be bad is BS. It's a decision that you make. And as humans, not animals, we have that power to sit back, be rational, and go, so what's this going to do? Hey, bro, let's go break into cars. If I get caught, I go to jail. If I go to jail, let's just think about this reality-wise. No girlfriend, no girls, no mom, no dad, no nightclubs, no fun, no strip clubs, whatever your thing is, right? Whatever, because that all goes away. Or say no and be able to go do all this stuff.
Yeah.
And it's such a crazy, simple concept that is absolutely forgotten about with most people. Because just everyday decisions you make may not have bad consequences, but the big decisions that you don't think about usually have the biggest consequences. And that's how it worked for me. I one of the worst decisions in my life ended up becoming the reason that I am who I am today. So I'm grateful for it.
But it's probably not something you'd want someone else to have to follow to get that same lesson.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's what I say.
That's amazing advice, really.
You want to see death, you want to see craziness, you want to be disturbed, and I'll be honest, I will be disturbed and accept that I'll be disturbed for the rest of my life. Because of you. If you see a picture of the bitchinest wave in the world, you never forget that wave, right? If you see a car accident, for the rest of your life, you're going to see that. Whether it's conscious or subconscious, it's always going to be part of you. So being able to just know that all of this, and that's, I think, why I've been able to become what I've become. Because I've and the advice for other people is allow all those negatives to be part of your life. You can't change the past, you can't change what you've done, but what you can do is make a difference from today on, right? So
make better decisions in the future.
Absolutely.
So final question then, escape your limits is about escaping what you've told yourself is impossible and made it possible. What would be your most memorable example of escaping your limits? I know we've probably covered a lot of things, but
I think not worrying about what others are going to think of you and just focusing on your goal. Never giving up on it. No matter, you may have entrepreneurs, your parents, your peers, your coworkers that tell you you're crazy. Never give up on what you think is achievable. Period. Because that's, really, and that concept of escape your limits is powerful. Just the phrase. Because the word is sometimes taken out of concept. I come from a place where the word escape has a big impact on my vernacular. Like that word is powerful to me. So you could either look at it in two ways. You're escaping or fleeing from something that you're fearful of, or that you've done something wrong, or you're escaping to break barriers.
That's an interesting way of looking at it. I hadn't thought of that.
I want to break barriers, and these are the things that allow you to do that, is having people like yourself that do a show like this, that allow people a forum, but to I think that's really it. It's just never
So I
giving
guess
up.
it's either escaping from something you don't want or breaking through something that's like a positive direction.
That you want so bad.
Yeah, right.
That nothing's going to stop you.
Interesting.
You know, no matter what people say.
Yeah.
You know, that's my take, brother.
Brendan, I appreciate your time.
Absolutely.
It's been wonderful.
Right.
Best of wishes for everything in the future.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it.
Hey, I hope you enjoyed this podcast. If you did, then please go over to iTunes and subscribe to the Escape Your Limits podcast. Leave a review, leave a comment. It really would help us a lot to continue to keep these going.